so we said that Grandpa was born on December 24th, 1924. He is the youngest of 6. One girl and all boys. I think
That stinks.
his sister is. I think the next youngest is his sister, Velma. Anyway, in Sugar City, his dad was my grandpa. He's the one that had. He lost his. His dad is the one who lost his arm in the Portland cement factory at Devil's Slide.
Isn't that the same guy with the lazy eye?
Yeah, he also had a crossed eye.
I don't know where exactly, so I always imagine that story as him out by himself in the middle of nowhere running a machine and then it ate off his arm.
No, it's a cement factory. In fact, he was. I guess I read about that today. He was been going to school, college, to be an electrical engineer. And it's like 1908, so they did things different. And he was in a correspondence class to be an electrical engineer, and they figured out that he could get credit for working in industry. So he got a job there as an electrician at a cement factory. There's a cement factory there now. Anyway, but yeah. So he worked there, and then.
Wait, is this the same person we have a video of Allison sitting on with?
No.
No, this is Grandpa. That's Grandpa Shutt's
No,
dog.
my grandpa died when I was 10, I think, or 11. Anyway, he was working there as an electrician, and in fact, he got his diploma. He was there for 16 or 18 months or something. And got his diploma from this place. And then election day in 2008, half the people didn't show up because they were drunk, because there was a big election.
In 2008?
Huh? Excuse me, 1908. And so they made him, he had to go work other parts of the plant that he wasn't accustomed to. He didn't go into very often. And he was checking a motor on an elevator, and there was coal dust over the grease, and he slipped and his arm went through the gears. And he said a couple times. And so they took him to the
Did you cry?
first aid place, and he had to lay there. He did it at like 8:30 in the morning. He had to lay there till 2 before they had a train to take him to Ogden. So
Wow.
he laid there with his arm.
That's horrible.
Yeah,
Oh my
his
gosh.
arm all mangled, and they took it down and said it's got to come off. So he lost his left arm at the shoulder.
Do you think it had to come off because they waited so long?
He didn't say. He just said it's because it was mangled up enough it had to come off. But who knows? But anyway, so that was his dad, and he also had a turned eye. But he was.
A what?
He had one crossed eye. I forget which one, right or left. I'd have to look at the picture. Anyway, he always had that. Anyhow, but he did a lot of stuff. He built his own house, and he was.
No
I
arm?
remember that.
Yeah, he worked as an electrician, and.
With one
But
arm.
by the time my dad was born, he was principal of the school in Sugar City, and he'd been a scoutmaster, and then he was a scout commissioner. He had like 15 troops that were under him and stuff like that. So he's a big Boy Scout guy. Grandpa was, and so that was his family. His mom was like the granddaughter of the Loader sisters, from the handcart company stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So he had that on both sides of the family.
Wait, your grandpa's mom still?
Huh?
Your grandpa's mom?
My dad's mom.
Oh.
My
Your
grandma.
grandpa's mom.
Anyway, so that was, and then all the boys, and he had one brother who was, like the middle brother, was mentally retarded, and then
Didn't know that.
yeah, Marshall, not real severe, but he was, and then
Your uncle?
yeah, my Uncle Marshall. So that was his family. He grew up kind of rural-ish. Sugar City wasn't big, right? Idaho. And
What are his other siblings' names? Because I didn't even know he had a brother named Marshall.
the oldest one, I think, I could look. The oldest is Dale,
I knew that.
and then Elmer,
But
and then Marshall, and then Blaine, and then Velma, and then my dad. I believe
Is
that's right.
Bella the one that lives in Oklahoma?
Who?
Viola.
Viola.
That's Grandma's sister.
That's the other side of the family, yeah. My aunt on his side is named Velma. She lives in Boise. So Grandma Eddington's seeing her and her brother, my dad's sister, and my brother this
they both
week. He's going to leave tomorrow, I think, or the day after.
Wow.
Tomorrow.
Oh, by the way, Allison, we need to figure out a different time to go visit
Go visit who?
Grandma, because Alan told us she was going to be there on Wednesday and she's not.
Okay,
Oh.
we'll discuss this after.
The 14th she
We can
travels.
discuss it later, but I wanted to say it.
Okay. Anyway, so, and he grew up, I think, I don't know that much about his growing up years, except that he seemed to have fun being a kid in Idaho. He liked to hunt, he liked to camp and fish and stuff. I'll look and see if I can see it. There's a picture of him, I don't know if you guys have seen it, with some of his cousins and friends or something, holding all these fish that he caught in the canal. I'm pretty sure he told me that spoiled him for fishing when he got older. Because it's so easy to get fish. Oh, here's his family. And he's on he's the one slouching. I'm not sure which side that'll be for you.
Hey, can I have a picture first?
Down there. And then that's his mom and dad. Okay? Where's my camera? There it is. I don't know if you can see. Maybe not. That's...
I don't see the fish.
This is not it. This is this family. And he's the one slouching over on one end.
Oh yeah.
That's his sister on the other side, and all his brothers and his mom and dad in the middle. Okay?
I see.
Yeah.
You have to watch
That's Grandpa.
What?
Looks like Noah.
He looks what? More casual?
Yeah, but he's
Younger.
like a nipple.
I mean, I know he is the youngest, but he looks a lot younger.
There he is with his fish. His brother, who's a little mental retarded, is standing behind him with the funny hat.
What kind of mental illness do we have?
He's mentally retarded, pretty sure. But not severely, like I said.
I was just wondering if it had another specific name. Wait, Dad, talk again.
So he's on the, let's see. Let's see which one he is for you guys. Sorry, I gotta look again. Oh, he's not the blonde-headed girl. he's on the other end with his brother behind him.
Oh.
Marshall's behind him. Huh?
That's what I just said, talk again.
Oh, okay.
A lot of fish.
Yeah, and big trout, So when we fished in Oregon, he would get frustrated because you could get like 2 fish in a day, and there were planters that were 6 inches long that somebody threw in there out of a truck the week before, So he didn't like fishing in Oregon much. He did it, but he would get disgusted. He always, born to be an engineer, I guess. He always liked electronics and stuff. He told me he built a crystal radio when he was a little kid. I don't know how you do that. He told me once, but I forgot.
What's crystal?
It's a crystal. It has a little, I don't know what the crystal was. I have to look it up, what kind of crystal you use. But anyway, it's the tuner. You use the crystal as the tuner in your radio. And I don't believe it even requires power. I think it takes its power off the signal it picks up in the air,
Wow.
And he made one of those when he was a kid. And his dad was, electrical engineer, and that's what he did. And he liked, I don't know if he liked it. He worked hoeing sugar beets and potatoes. He did it. I don't think he liked it that much. He hoed sugar beets and he hoed potatoes. And he told us about causing problems by sticking potatoes in somebody's exhaust pipe. And wanted it to shoot out the back. And he talked about getting in trouble. I'm pretty sure it's him getting in trouble for riding in the back of the truck with the sugar beets on the highway and throwing them out the back at people. Stuff like that.
Melissa told me a story that Elaine apparently used to tell about how one time Grandpa was working on the wiring in the house, and he decided that he didn't need to shut off the power. He'd just do it live.
Yep, he did.
But all she remembered was a big flash of blue light and Grandpa flying across the room.
I didn't see it, but when he was working on our basement. You remember the basement in Grandpa's house that had that dropped ceiling, ceiling tiles, and then fluorescent bulbs in it?
Yeah.
He when they moved into that house, well, they moved into two houses, but when he moved into that house, the basement was completely unfinished, you know? So I remember him working on it for years. It seemed like to me forever. It was probably a couple of years. But anyway, did the paneling, he wired the whole thing and did everything. And yeah, he was fixing something in the lights in the main room where the piano was, you know, on a ladder. And I remember him going to church. He had a blister about an inch and a half wide, you know, all the way across the palm of his hand like that.
Wow.
About that tall.
Wow.
He had it all wrapped up, and then Alan was telling me that he wouldn't let anybody tell anybody at church what happened because thought it was too embarrassing for electrical engineer to get electrocuted. Anyway, so Alan knows what he was doing. I can't remember. Alan remembers, but I don't remember exactly what he was doing. But something with that light, those lights in the middle of that room. I remember.
Should ask him.
Anyway, he was embarrassed and didn't want anybody to know how he hurt his hand. He liked music. He always had. He's how come we always had to sing around the piano at family reunions because that was his thing. We used to do that when we were kids.
Huh.
And they had us sing in church sometimes. The Eddington
Von
family.
Trapp family.
Yeah,
Like the Untrapped family singer.
that's right. We had to sing in church once in a while, like Christmas time and stuff.
Wait, so
Did you all hate it?
I don't know. I just thought that's what you did.
how did he instigate singing around the piano?
I
It's
don't
just
know.
like,
I just remember
want
we ended
to
up
do-
going down there and doing it. I
Who
don't
played
remember
the
anybody
piano?
instigating anything, but you did.
Who played?
He- My mom played most of the time. And then he played the violin when he was growing up. I don't remember him ever playing it. He had one. But I remember going to concerts and, you know, like at the school, you know, like 8th grade or something, and band concerts for my brothers or something. And when the orchestra would play, I remember him commenting on some kid playing the violin that he knew how to do it right. He said, "Oh yeah, he holds it right, he stands right, posture's right, and he holds his bow right and stuff like that, you know." So he could tell who could play right and who couldn't.
That's cool.
And he played the guitar. He taught himself to play the guitar. And he didn't play a lot of songs. There's a couple. They had like this book, Teach Yourself to Play Guitar book, you know. And he would do the songs out of that. The Drunken Sailor Song. You remember that one? I can't remember how it goes anymore. I could a minute ago, but what will we do with the drunken sailor? Yeah, that one. He used to sing that one and played on the guitar. He thought it was cool. And he, when he was getting out of high school, about the time, let's see, he was born in 1924, so 1944 he'd have been 20, right? So 1942 he'd have been 18. So about the time he was junior in high school, maybe a senior, it was the beginning of World War II for the United States, Pearl Harbor. So when you guys are getting ready to get out of high school and looking forward to whatever, didn't have any idea what was going to happen, I assume. And he knew he'd get drafted, so he went to,
Why?
because everybody was.
Everybody was.
Yeah, and his number and stuff. So he went to, I think he tried to get in, he's got his thing about what he did in the war. I didn't look it up again, but he went to enlist in, I think he tried to get into ROTC is what it was, or something like that. No, it was ROTC. It was an officer training thing, you know. So he could be an officer if he's going to go in. And they rejected him because they said he had a little bit of a heart murmur and maybe flat feet or something.
I remember the flat feet thing.
Yeah, and then like a year later he got drafted and he went in and they said, "You're fine. If you're going to be in the infantry, you're just fine." So he got drafted in the infantry and then he did his best to do the best he could being in the army. So they had by the time he got drafted in, I think he'd already done a year at Rick's College, I think. At least a semester, but maybe a year. Anyway, and so he was already in an engineering program. So they had a special program in the Army for college kids, students that they could use for officers, you know, or whatever. Just they wanted people with training. So they paid for his training. They sent him to, who's at Moscow? Is it the University of Idaho or Idaho State? I think it's
University of Idaho.
the University of Idaho. Yeah, that's where he went. And they lived in barracks, and they had to take 20 credit hours a semester. And they'd start in the morning at 8 o'clock. Class started. You were done at 5, and you marched in formation to school and from class to class and back home, and then you studied You know, because he's in the Army, you know, but that was his assignment. And he said they did have, like, the young adults, they didn't call them young adults. They had mutual, you know, men and gleaners or whatever they had. Anyway, they had young adult type activities for him. The locals did. They had dances and stuff like that.
He already knew Grandma by now, didn't he?
I'm not sure exactly when he met her.
She
But
told me that it
somewhere in
was
there.
when she was like a junior or senior in high school because she was all proud of having her big old Army boyfriend who was way older than her.
Yeah, so,
All the girls were jealous.
but it's about the time he got out, I think. I think he might have been on leave sometime or something when he met her or something. I don't know exactly. Something like that. He got married after he got out of the military anyway. But I think they're engaged when he was still in. Yeah.
Didn't she wait for him for a while?
Well, while he was in, but I mean, she was 18 when she got married, so she was barely out of high school if she was out, you know, when they got married. Anyway, they got married, and he went back to finish college, back to, you know, University of Idaho, in Moscow, where they lived in a little tiny dumpy trailer. And Alan was born there. And when they got out of school, he got a job working for Bonneville Power Administration, and his brother worked there, I think already. Dale did. He was an electrical engineer there too. And they sent him to Spokane, which they really liked. They liked Spokane. And I don't know how long they were there, but Elaine was born there, and maybe Mark. I think Mark was born there too. And then they moved to the Dalles in Oregon, which was
Why?
there's a big power substation there by the dam, by the Dallas Dam. And I don't know what his responsibilities were more, I guess. So I think he'd still travel around a lot, you know, like in a truck in the field kind of stuff there. Somebody also was in the office too, I think, more. And that's where he was branch president before he left. That's the story about when, the way I heard it was when they had a lot of problems in the branch, and like whoever the branch president was, like his wife was a big problem. Like she was like the power broker in the ward for the branch, and so they had like half the ward hated the other half or something like that, and all kinds of problems. And some general authority came, I don't know who it was. And the story I heard anyway is that they sent a letter, I think, to every Melchizedek priesthood holder in the branch and said, the meeting's at this time, you either come to the meeting or you're going to go to a church court to find out why you wouldn't come. Something like that. Oh yeah, they threatened their membership, I think, if they didn't show up to this meeting. And there's like a conference. And I guess what they did, my understanding, is they interviewed every Melchizedek priesthood holder in the branch before it started and asked them all to be the branch president. Or to support whoever it was, or something like that, you know, and they didn't tell any of them who it was actually going to be. And then when they got in the meeting, Grandpa got to be it, you know.
Wow.
So he was branch president there for a while. And but an interesting story, which is good for people to know, is that, I mean, if his family, Velma was pretty active in the church. I don't think that hugely, but pretty active. Well, maybe so. Yeah, she went. And then I think Blaine was pretty active in his family. Dale was completely inactive. Elmer, I think, was pretty much inactive. Marshall, I think, was fairly active. You know, they're kind of in and out, sort of, you know, a lot of the people in his family. And the story Mom told that I never heard him tell, but she did, was that I think when they moved to the Dalles, I think is where it was. Could have been Spokane, but I think it was the Dalles. And everybody was older, and they all had more money than him and stuff like that, you know, and in Elders Quorum. He didn't like Elders Quorum, which I've heard before from other people. Anyway, he didn't like Elders Quorum, and so he just didn't go for a while, you know? Didn't go to church, and your grandma said that she came home one day, and after people asked her where he was, you know, and she said something to the tune of, "I am not going to be the lady who has to go in every week, drag in all by myself, and explain to everybody where you are.
Oh, I've heard that, yeah.
So you are going to church." So he said, he complained about it a little, and she kind of said, tough, you have to go anyway. And that was
And she didn't come from the most active. Well, she didn't come from like a great family either.
no, although she always went to church. I'm not sure why. I think Grandma did most of the time too.
Well, she did, but
I think that her mom did too. I think,
oh,
but she seemed to be more active than the rest of them. I don't know why. Although I think Dawn went. I think they all were fairly active, but no, their family was a wreck. But
Yeah,
Anyway.
does he go now?
so she wouldn't put up with it. Anyway, he got to be the branch president, and then right before I was born, and I don't know, I hear stories about the Dalles, but I never lived there. So right before I was born, just like right before Christmas, I think in 1959 they moved to Portland for work. They transferred him down there where Bonneville Power's main offices were, and he was like on their engineering technical staff to help design, because it was all new. They're still building dams and stuff then, and so they're still designing the system to route all the power and everything and interconnect it with the rest of the United States and California and British Columbia and stuff like that. So he was on their engineering staff doing all that kind of stuff when they moved into Portland. And all the time I was growing up, he was in the bishopric, because I looked at something, I got the date someplace. I think when I was 9 months old, he was called into the bishopric. And he was in the bishopric until I was 16 or 17.
wow.
16, I think. So he was the bishop for 7 or 8 years, 8 years, I think. But so from the time I was about 8 or 9 until I was 16 or 17, he was the bishop.